Women who carry the BRCA1 or BRCA2 gene mutation have approximately a 70% risk of developing breast cancer over their lifetime. They also have up to a 40% risk of developing ovarian cancer. The breast cancer trial's SOLACE trial looked into treatments for people in this situation. The trial looked at men and women with BRCA-associated breast cancer, triple-negative breast cancer, or serous ovarian cancer. SOLACE was an important trial for the treatment of ovarian cancer, and the results and treatments from this trial are being further investigated in more recent breast cancer clinical trials like Olympia. Medical oncologist and chair of the Breast Cancer Trial Scientific Advisory Committee, Associate Professor Prue Francis, sat down with us to discuss the SOLACE trial and the benefits we gain from these smaller Phase 1 clinical trials.
The SOLACE trial was a trial that was conducted by our group, and it was trying to look at combining a drug called olaparib, which is a PARP inhibitor, with a very common chemotherapy drug that can actually be given in a tablet form as well as intravenously, but in this trial it was a tablet. So it was combining it with cyclophosphamide, which is a common drug we use in breast cancer. So the SOLACE trial involved women having an all-tablet therapy, so olaparib, the PARP inhibitor, is tablets, and the cyclophosphamide is tablets. And it was studying a couple of different groups of women. It was studying women with advanced breast cancer, and it was also studying women with advanced ovarian cancer. And the reason we included both breast and ovarian cancer was because PARP inhibitors, like olaparib, are potentially active in women who have a genetic mutation called the BRCA1 or mutation, or BRCA2 mutation, and those mutations are associated potentially with both breast and ovarian cancer. So in the SOLACE trial, women could participate in the trial if they had either a breast cancer and had one of these gene mutations, or if they had what was called a triple-negative breast cancer, so that's a breast cancer that doesn't express estrogen or progesterone receptor and doesn't overexpress HER2. So those were the breast cancer patients that could participate. And in ovarian cancer, there were women who had sort of high-grade serous ovarian cancers, or who had one of these BRCA mutations in association with their ovarian cancer.
So what were the results of that trial?
So that trial allowed women to participate who'd received a number of prior therapies before for their advanced disease. And for breast cancer, the trial approach didn't look particularly promising for future in that setting where the women had a number of prior therapies. And so perhaps if we were looking at that approach in breast cancer with a PARP inhibitor, we'd be needing to think about it earlier in the therapy stage. And for example, since we started conducting the SOLACE trial, olaparib, the PARP inhibitor, has in fact been approved in Australia for women with earlier breast cancer, advanced breast cancer, but in an earlier therapy setting, because there is some efficacy there. And we've also, in breast cancer trials, been studying that same drug, olaparib, in the Olympia trial, where women who have early stage breast cancer and have completed their surgery and their chemotherapy and any other local therapy they need, such as radiation, and they're being randomised to receive olaparib or no olaparib after they've completed those therapies. So the drug itself is still being actively studied in breast cancer, but in the actual SOLACE trial for the women who'd had quite a few different therapies for their advanced breast cancer, we did not see long periods of control in that context. However, the gynecology oncologists are actually interested in the results of SOLACE, because for the women with ovarian cancer, and particularly those who had the BRCA mutations, they did get reasonable periods of tumour control with that combination. So it is an interesting combination for them to go and study further in that particular setting.
So it didn't necessarily create a huge breakthrough in breast cancer treatment, but those results are quite important moving forward then?
Yes, well, I think it tells us that if we are going to use drugs like olaparib, a PARP inhibitor, in women with advanced breast cancer, to think about selecting the appropriate population, which might not be everybody with triple negative breast cancer, and it also might need to be in a particular setting, so perhaps early in the time when they have advanced disease rather than after they've received multiple prior therapies.
And you said it was they received their treatment in tablet form instead of intravenous. Is there much of a difference? Was there a benefit to that?
So olaparib is a tablet anyway, the PARP inhibitor, but cyclophosphamide can be given either intravenously or in a tablet form, and in this trial it was given in a tablet form. And we know that women do value, and patients in general value, if they can, receiving therapy as tablets, because it's something they can do at home and doesn't require intravenous strips and needles in their arm in that way. So the other thing is that there is some thinking that when you can give something as a tablet, if you're doing something on a daily basis as a tablet, that perhaps those continuous low doses of therapy, as sometimes referred to as metronomic chemotherapy, where you give regular small doses every day rather than one big intravenous dose every 3 weeks, that perhaps that may have a particular type of efficacy that might be important.
And is there a benefit to quality of life as well?
Well, I think in general, for having oral therapies, there can be a benefit for quality of life. Usually patients prefer not to spend their time sitting around in day therapy units having drips. So I think from that perspective, yes.
That was Associate Professor Prue Francis, medical oncologist and chair of the Breast Cancer Trials Scientific Advisory Committee. If you'd like to learn more about breast cancer trials, head to our website, breastcancertrials.org.au. If you'd like to keep up to date with the latest in breast cancer research, open clinical trials, stories and breast cancer trials activity, make sure you subscribe to the Breast Cancer Trials podcast and follow us on social media. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover on the podcast with our team of experts, make sure you get in touch. And if you enjoy this podcast, make sure you tell those in your support circles to tune in.